Hi, I'm Megan. Let's make this case brief. And yes, I own more than one shirt. I have yet to finish my entertainment law paper, so let's talk intellectual property. Specifically, Desny versus Wilder and the magical world of copyright. And no, we're not talking about the man with the mouse. Wait, Megan, what's a copyright? I'm so glad you asked because this is actually the kind of law that I would love to get into someday. Have you ever taken a photograph? Have you ever doodled a smiley face? Do you read? You're a law student. Of course you read. So what's in common with all of those things? All of those things have copyrights. A copyright is something that protects your ownership over something that you have created as soon as you create it. I could make a doodle of a cat right now and a copyright would automatically attach to it. So what do I get if I have a copyright? It means I can distribute my work as much as I'd like. I can reproduce it as much as I'd like. I could make a different kind of work based off of the thing that I've created. I can perform the work and I can display that work publicly. Basically, I get to advertise to the world that this thing is mine and I have created it. Two big things or two elements that we have to remember when we are discussing copyright law. So, you need to make sure that your work is an original work of ownership, meaning you created it and it's your original idea, and it must be fixed in some form of medium. And this tangible form of expression can look like a lot of things. It can look like the first draft of your book that's on your computer. It can be an audio recording of a song that you wrote. It could be notations on a dance sequence. As long as you have something written down, or just something that proves that you worked on it, it's yours. It must be fixed. It must be tangible. However, there's a few things that aren't protected by copyright, and for good reason. One of those things is ideas. You can't sue somebody for having the same idea as you. That's not how creativity works, and it would deter a lot of people from creating things out of fear that they could be sued by anybody for having the same idea. The whole thing behind copyright is that we want to promote people creating artistic works. So how does Desny v. Wilder come into play in all of this? Well, Desny's got this great idea for a book about this cave explorer named Floyd Collins who got stuck in a cave one time. And Desny takes it a step further because he's like, you know what would be even better than a book? A movie. So either the 60s were really crazy, or Desny just had some great connections because he just calls out Paramount Pictures. And he says, I want to speak with the director. I want to speak with Billy Wilder. However, you can never get in touch with the bigwig, you get in touch with their secretary. So Wilder's secretary picks up the phone and is like, who is this? And Desny says, I need to speak with Mr. Wilder. And the secretary says, nope, you gotta tell me why you're calling. Which, by the way, great secretary. So Desny's got no choice but to tell the secretary about the movie idea. Remember, idea that he has. And he even gives her a little synopsis of the movie. And he says, the director can only use this idea if he pays me for it. And the secretary says, yeah, that makes sense because that's how capitalism works. And so Desny doesn't hear from Mr. Wilder or his secretary again until he goes to the movies a year later and sees this movie called Ace in the Hole, which is about a man who gets stuck in a cave and is said to take inspiration from the story of Floyd Collins. And so Desny sees this movie and he says, that's my idea! And he goes and he sues Wilder. Desny wants his compensation just like he was promised. And Wilder's attorneys cook up this really great defense, which is that it was only an idea and there was no contract in place between Desny and Wilder, saying that Desny would be compensated if Wilder used his idea. So what's a judge to do in this case? Well, the courts decide on this really cool thing called the implied contract theory. And the implied contract theory can be boiled down to this. Conveyance plus usage equals payment. You cannot have one without the other in order to get that payment. So let's break it down. Conveyance. You have to verbally or in some type of way convey your idea to a person. Now, if there's only conveyance and you only tell the person about the idea, you don't have a property interest in that. Therefore, it can't be protected by copyright. Again, that goes back to the idea that we can't just sue people for having the same idea as us. However, what's different is when somebody uses that idea that you conveyed to them. That idea is now being expressed in a tangible way. And obviously, whoever's expressing that idea, whoever's made that movie or published your book idea, is making some money. And unless you've got a really good friend who just loves spitballing ideas for you to use, you're probably only telling somebody about your idea in order for them to use it so that you can get paid for them to use your idea. That is implied contract theory, baby. So if we use it in this case here, Desny conveyed his idea about a movie about a cave explorer to Wilder, saying, you should use my idea and make a movie so that I get paid for it. Implicitly, they created a contract where Desny was going to be paid if his idea was used. And Desny gets his cash, which is great. What's really cool about the implied contract theory is that this doesn't apply in every single state when it comes to copyright. States like California love the implied contract theory. Why? Because that's where the movies are being made. You've got people who are pitching ideas constantly, and they want to see people getting paid for their ideas. In states like New York, copyright is primarily based more so on your property interests in whatever you've created, but that's for another video. I am hoping that that is alright, because I am going to use this case in my paper I'm writing right now. And if this case teaches you anything, write down your ideas. Stop telling strangers your ideas.